Hello, this is Zoidrad here, and this lecture will be about cross-site scripting and the understanding of what cross-site scripting actually is. So let's go to the next slide. So we just usually refer to cross-site scripting as XSS. So I might just quickly go to slide changes quickly from beginning. So we just refer to cross-site scripting as XSS. There's four flavors of XSS. There's reflected XSS, stored XSS, DOM XSS, and blind XSS. Let's go into detail what each one is. So reflected XSS, or reflected cross-site scripting, is a client-side injection attack whereby an attacker can inject malicious and nefarious JavaScript code into a web application. This is an example of some payloads. And if the payload gets reflected straight into the response without any error encoding, then it's vulnerable to cross-site scripting. But you're going to make sure you break out of the context of the tag. So you're going to make sure you are actually injecting JavaScript, not just inject it inside like a tag or something. An example, you inject JavaScript code in a GET request parameter such as name or things like that, and it will get fired, but only by that user. Here's some example code. Here's some example server-side code of a vulnerable web application that is vulnerable to cross-site scripting. Now, the impact of reflected XSS is medium impact, as it is only exploited by the client side. So it's only a client-side attack. Example attacks would be session fixation, cookie theft, meaning that you can set up your own malicious server and inject your server with the cookie stealing script. And every time a user clicks on the malicious link, their cookie will get stolen by the attacker, and they can inject their cookie with the stolen cookie to access their account. Phishing is used a lot for reflected cross-site scripting, browser code execution, and open redirect. So you can actually use a program called Beef cross-site scripting framework, and you can inject your malicious hook into the web application, getting access to people's browsers and doing browser code execution. The next one is stored cross-site scripting, which is a server-side injection attack whereby an attacker can inject malicious and nefarious JavaScript code into the web application's form. Now, these are generally post requests, like about the contact page or the About Us page, where there's a form to fill in and it submits to the server. Then the payload will get stored right into the database, causing any user to visit the page or the site to be affected by the attack. And these attacks are generally used like in website defacements. And when you fill in a form that submits to the server, if the server is not encoding user-supplied input properly, you can inject JavaScript into the form and it will get saved into the database. And then when any other user visits it, they will get exploited. Now, the impact of stored XSS is high because it works for both client and server side. An example attacks would be website defacement, code execution, browser execution, and account takeovers. Stored XSS is a much more severe case of XSS. It's probably the most common ones to find and the most dangerous ones to find. Many hackers will find stored XSS. I actually found one on Unity 3D. It was in a file upload, and I did some content type spoofing, and actually injected my own image with a cross-site scripting payload into a CDN network, content delivery network, and it got reflected and it popped up XSS and it was stored. And I got a 1.2k bounty. That was pretty cool. Okay, so DOM XSS is a little bit difficult. It's an injection attack where an attacker can inject malicious and nefarious JavaScript into web application's DOM. Now, DOM stands for Document Object Model. An example attack would be domain.com/hash, which is generally called a hash bang. And this script payload, the JavaScript payload, will be after that, and it will get executed. But the payload will not get reflected into the response. Generally, you have to read the code, read the code in JavaScript, the client-side code in JavaScript. Look for sinks and sources. So an example of a source and a sink would be something below. So document get element by ID form in HTML as a source. And video location is a source. And I'm going to show you in a minute in my video some example things, some things you can do to look for domain XSS, and a good website to go to actually look for what sources and things are. The last one is blind XSS. It's an attack where you might inject a malicious, nefarious JavaScript into the code, into the web application, but it will not get reflected on the same page. It will get executed in a different page and different code. So it's blind, so you don't see the attack happening. But once you say we fill in a form or contact form, the payload will submit but whenever admin sees the contact form, the XSS will fire. This can be detected by XSS Hunter, and I'll show you that in a minute. So let's get to some examples. So I'm going to open up Burp, and I'm going to open up the B-box. Now the IP of the machine is this here. So we'll copy this, and we'll go into a Firefox browser, and we'll run Burp. Like so. We'll choose BWAP. Now for blind XSS, I think for this one we can't really I need to actually load up Burp, so just wait a minute. So Burp is loading. I'm going to run Burp. And what I'm going to do just for to practice, I'm going to just load a basic. I'm going to show you reflected cross-site scripting. So the most common parameters in reflected cross-site scripting. The most common place to find cross-site scripting is generally in parameters. Now this could be any parameter at all. So the login is B, the password is bug. Now, you usually find reflect XSS pretty much anywhere. You just need to test for any reflections, and any reflections being made in a response. So, for instance, I've got this plugin in Burp called Reflection. Excuse me. It's called Reflected Parameters, and this is actually a program that will tell us what's been reflected. Now, if we go to, say, Reflected Cross-Site Scripting Challenge, and we'll do the GET request. We'll go set to hack. We'll set it to low and we'll go hack. Okay, so it's asking for a first name and last name. Let's just put these aside so we can actually see both what's happening. So let's put that aside and that aside. Let's turn on the proxy. And let's just put some garbage here. Let's put ASDF and ASDF here. Now we're going to capture the form. And this is what it's going to be. It's going to be a GET request, and we want to see what actually is being reflected here. So we're going to repeater and send it off. As you can see in the repeater, I will forward this off. As you can see in the reflection, is that the key? Just wait. Oh, because I need to add it in scope. My bad. So we need to add this into scope. So with Burp, we've got a proxy. Because it's an interception proxy, we can capture requests that have been made to the server. And we can intercept them and modify them and tamper with them and set it off to the server. Now we've got this target, which is where we have our list of targets. We've got the scope, which is we put all in scope items so we can hack. Because sometimes a lot of bug bounty programs have scopes. All of them have scopes. So there might be ones where we're only allowed to hack a certain amount of subdomains. Might be ones where we can hack all subdomains. Now in this scope, we can actually put these regular expressions. So this one here, and then something like domain.com. With that dot, and the asterisk and the dot and the forward slash and the dot, that means all domains. And that we'll search for all subdomains. We just want the IP address 192.168.30.128. And we just want to choose show only in scope items by clicking on this part up here, the section up here, and go show only in scope items. And we only want to show parameterized requests. This will give us the ones that only have parameters, because you generally find XSS with parameters. Now we want to send this off again, and we should say in the reflection. Actually, what I might do is I might actually click on it again and submit it. So ASD, send it off, and we get it reflected. This reflection tool means that it's been reflected in response. ASD has been, and then ASD has been reflected in the response. So if we type in ASD, it's being reflected into the response here. So what we usually do is a download a tool called it's called Central, and it's another program that will help us exploit cross-site scripting. So let's choose Central. That's installed. We'll just install that. Let's go into install, and we just want to send the request to Central. So we'll go to repeater. We'll send that to Central. We only want to choose cross-site scripting attacks. Now this will check for bypasses and things like that. Check both of the parameters we want to test. The ones that got reflected we test for, and we just click go. And as you can see, it's going to try and test out all the possible bypasses and things like that. And we find that we've actually found a vulnerability because in the response, this has been reflected right here. This has actually been reflected, and it's a 200 OK, and it's found that this has been reflected. So if we search for this, we search for ASDD. So we search for ASDD. As you can see, ASDD, it's been reflected here. So let's then try out an attack. Maybe let's just put our proof of concept now. So if we then put our Java, we know it's been reflected, let's put a JavaScript payload. So let's go, another thing is we can just type in foobar, like this, and we can then turn on the proxy, and we can also click on that and search for it and see if that gets reflected foobar. That's a way to check to see if it's been reflected, but we're not doing that. We're actually going to use reflection to it in case. It's going to be a lot better. Foobar, and then we just get reflected. It's getting reflected there. So let's do an attack. Let's put in the JavaScript payload. Let's put image tag. So image source equals X on error. So because obviously X is not an image source, so it's going to cause an error. We go alert 1 and put in the ending tag there. We go. It will pop up in the box saying 1. Now that's one way to test it. But let's actually test it with an automation tool called NoXSS. So NoXSS is an automation tool to help detect cross-site scripting. All you need to do is go to add-ons, download the NoXSS Community Edition by typing in here, NoXSS, and just download the community version right there. Then what you do is you just basically, what you need to do now is just turn it on, and you'll find that it gets detected. It detects cross-site scripting. You don't even need to type in any payloads at all. How good is that? It's such a good tool. It's really good. Like, I recommend this tool to automate things. Another thing we're going to do is we're going to use a program called OpenList. Now, this is a good program to open more than one URL. So OpenList, it is just type in this, OpenList. And what you can do with this, I'll show you a good trick. This is a really, really good trick. Download OpenList right there, and it should come up with like a icon like that. Now what you want to do is you want to crawl the site using burp. So you want to crawl out and find any possible URLs there are. So we can just simply go scan, crawl for 10 minutes, but it's going to crawl the site. But we're not going to do that. We're just going to copy all these links, copy selected URLs. We're going to turn on NoXSS, and then we're just going to go to a website that's not vulnerable first. Let's open up lists. Let's open up this and then go open and turn on NoXSS. This will actually detect every page that is vulnerable. So as you can see here, if you turn it on, it's going to check all the pages and see if it's vulnerable. And this doesn't work because you can only do one page at once. Well, we can automate this with a program that I've actually designed. That's called it's another program, but I have to show you that in another video. So for now, all you can do now is just only use one page and just test one page and just passively browse the website and it will detect it. But this is reflected XSS, so that's the manual and automation way of detecting it. Let's now move on to stored XSS. So stored XSS is a lot more severe. Let's do it, and usually they're done in like submission. So let's go to blog. Let's go to the blog challenge. stored blog attack. So I'm just going to turn on no XSS, and what you'll find is it will immediately find it for us. It is so good. It will just find it straight away. See, it found it. No need to fill in any forms or nothing. It will just find it for us. That's how good no XSS is. It's actually found it lots of times. It's actually crashing it. Oh my god, let's turn it off. It's actually crashed the program, believe it or not. It's popping up so many times. I need to close Burp now. I need to close all these. Jesus Christ. Let's close all these. There you go. So I detected it too many times, but this proves that it's vulnerable to XSS. See up there, it says it's vulnerable, so it's vulnerable. I just need to close out Firefox. Oh, here we go, that's crashed on me. Okay. Whoa. Let's get out of all these. It is really crashing on me really big time. This way, I'll close all windows. I actually end the process because it's crashing on me. Firefox, let's close Firefox. Okay, cool. Firefox is all closed. Let's go back into it. And that was stored XSS. Let's now do it manually. So the manual way is the same as basically reflected, exactly the same as reflected, but except it's located differently. It's generally located in a post request where you post into the server and you're making a request to the server. That's generally where you find it. Now let's focus on DOM XSS. So DOM XSS is a little bit more challenging because with DOM XSS you can't actually just detect it with Burp. It won't show up. So we'll go to this website here, Blue Closure. It's a way to actually start looking for DOM XSS practice. Shows you it's a practice website. It's like a site you can practice DOM XSS. Now what we're going to do is go to look up DOM XSS in GitHub. Because there's this really good site that shows you how to find DOM XSS. Where is it? DOM XSS. Just trying to find it. Syncs GitHub. This is one thing you want to look for in DOM XSS. You want to read JavaScript. So, for instance, for simple no head, you want to go here and do this challenge. You want to right click and go to Inspect. And with Inspect, you want to go to Sources and you want to open up the challenge. Now, right here, you're looking for some sort of sync or source. Now, immediately, because I've done this before, I can look at an escape and go, okay, it's not escaping the URL substring, position, document URL length. So it's not escaping this whole URL. It's not escaping nothing. And then, as you can see, it's been stored in here. So anything we put into here will get reflected back into this tag here without any escaping or nothing. So this is vulnerable, this part here. This is vulnerable here because it's not escaping user applied input. Now, a good way to look at this is actually a document URL substring. And this document right is the sync. These are the sources here. So if you look at what they are, so this is a really good website. I recommend you sit down and study, and I'll give you an assessment after it. So an assessment will be after this cross-subscription lecture, and you have to read this to actually learn about to actually do the assessment. I recommend you reading this so you can do the assessment. So let's have a look at how we can do this. So if we just have a look at, we can see that this gets reflected into the page. If we type in script alert 1, what's going to happen is because this has not been sanitized, this is going to go in here unescaped and display it as a username and write it to the page. So watch. Boom, it gets executed. That's DOM XSS. Now, blind XSS is a really fun one to look for. With blind XSS, we're going to use a program called XSS Hunter. Now, what you do is you sign up and you go to your settings and you create a subdomain. And this will be used for your XSS payload. So what we do is we just paste in this payload into everything we find. And in the fire, if we get a fire back, for instance, I can show you just using a generic reflected, because it still works for reflected. If I go here and I send that off, nothing's going to happen. Because it's blind, nothing's going to happen, but in the page, you'll see that it will fire. I've actually got I've got the proxy on, so I just need to minimize that. Okay, Something's happened here. Okay, there you go, it worked. So we submitted it. I might just quickly. My burp is playing up, so I might just close out that. And I might just paste it in here. So we're done with that. Let's copy this. Let's do this. So let's just paste in that payload. Now, I'm going to show you a good technique with burp 1.7 to actually find this. Let's do this. Oops, I need to actually type in the password. And we'll go to reflected XSS. Find it again. Heck. Now, if we type in our XSS payload, go, you'll find that it will submit and it will get executed and it will fire a page for us. If we load this, there you go, it gets fired. See? It shows you the IP, it shows you the URL, and it shows you the full report, and it even sends you an email. This is really good. This is a really good type of attack. But what we're going to do is we're going to automate this, but by using burp. So if we use burp 1.7, there's a thing called match and replace, and there's also a thing called spidering. So if we spider, and in the unmatched parameters, I'll just show you. So in the unmatched parameters, I'll show you. So if we go to proxy, if we add in our IP address here, this is what we want to attack. If I just reload this page, reload the page, we go to BWAP. Now, a good way to detect this is to put in our spider in unmatched fields is our blind access payload. And this means that anything that's been unmatched, anything that's not matched here, this payload will be injected into. And this is a good way to detect for blind XSS. Also, match replace is a really good tool too. So if you go to your proxy, go to options. In match replace, you can add a rule where you go, okay, we want a parameter name. We go, what if we actually no, sorry, I think it's parameter name. If we paste in parameter value, if you paste in ASDF, it will then have our payload here. So every time you type in ASDF, it will inject our payload. So for instance, we might go we might do something like this way. We might do blind access, we'll do just normal attack. So I'll show you what I mean. Okay, this is what I mean. So we go to reflected XSS example, and if we type in ASDF, it will execute our JavaScript because we've actually replaced ASDF with our payload. That's another good way of doing it as well. So that is a lot of in-depth detail of what cross-site scripting is. We've covered reflected cross-site scripting, we've covered DOM, stored, blind, and different ways to find it automatically and manually. There's also programs like XSS Hunter. Sorry, not XSS Hunter, XSS Strike, which is an automation tool that will help us find cross-site scripting. It's a Python script, so you just install it, and you just run this. You just run against the URL. And that will then attack cross-site scripting. I won't show you this because this is like a way you can do it, but I don't like doing it this way. I generally don't use it this way, but this is a way to automate things. But yeah, this is a video on cross-site scripting. Enjoy.